Welcome to the Mendoza Podcast, financial talk that makes sense. I'm your Illinois State Controller, Susana Mendoza, and I want to help answer all the questions you have about money matters, but we're maybe afraid to ask. We're going to learn a lot and have some fun together. Hi, and welcome back to the Mendoza Podcast. In today's episode, we will be talking about winterizing your home, energy efficiency, home energy assistance programs, and more. With me today is Doug Scott, Chairman of the Illinois Commerce Commission. Thanks for joining us today. And guess what, everyone? You need to know this. We already know each other.
We do.
Yes. In fact, we were state representatives together back in the Illinois House in early 2020. No, it would have been early 2001.
Yep.
And he ran for mayor of Rockford. I campaigned for him, knocked on doors for you back then. It was a million years ago. But you won, so high five.
That's right.
And now, well, he is the bigwig over at the ICC. And so, you know, for the audience that may not know you, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to see you again.
Thanks, Doug. It's always a pleasure. And why don't you walk us through tell me a little bit about yourself. I know so much, but the audience might not. And what you do at the ICC, and what is the ICC? What's it all about?
So in addition to the jobs that you mentioned that I had, I was also the director of the State Environmental Protection Agency for about 5 years. And then I moved over to the commission. And I was there for 4 years and then left and went into working for a not-for-profit that worked on energy and environmental issues. Cool. Did that for about 8 years. And then Governor Pritzker asked me to come back and chair the commission in 2023. And so I came back. So I've been back for about 2 years now.
And that is so great because, I mean, truly, Doug is one of the most talented people I know and most knowledgeable and really one of the hardest working. So
thank you.
We're lucky to have you.
Right back at you.
Well, thanks. Great minds think alike, right? Now, but let's get into it. Okay, so the Illinois Commerce Commission, that's what we're going to refer to as the ICC. So we're not saying that. It's a long name.
Right.
Throughout the whole course of this podcast. But the ICC deals a lot with utilities. That's essentially what it's known for. Right. Can you explain the agency's responsibilities and how the commission is set up to help consumers?
Sure. So we're a 5-member commission, all appointed by the governor with confirmation by the Senate. Our principal job, as it's grown over the years, has been to work with utilities, as you said, to regulate them, regulate the distribution, so the wires that go into your home and bring you the power or go into your business. That's our primary job. So also regulating gas companies and the water, private water companies as well. That's probably the lion's share of our job, but then we also do things like we regulate railroad crossings and provide a lot of money to help upgrade the crossings to provide some safety for them. So a lot of different jobs. We also regulate.
So is this from like the electrical entry points, or what do you mean when you talk about regulating that?
No, this is like the crossing itself. So if the crossing is dangerous and it needs a control arm or it needs to be separated from the grade, if the road needs to go underneath it, we actually have a fund that provides a lot of dollars to local governments and to the railroads to fix up the railway
really
crossings.
Cool. Yeah.
And then we also regulate other things like tow truck operators and repo people who repossess cars and things like that. So I think we got a few things. You guys deal
with some kind of tough folks to interact with sometimes,
I think I always explain it that we got some of the things that nobody else wanted, so they put them in the ICC.
I was trying to find a nicer way of saying that, but you nailed it. Yes, you nailed it. So now, like when it comes to utilities, we're always looking for ways to reduce costs.
Sure.
Right. So I hear this all the time, no matter where I go in the state, and actually in certain parts of the state, I hear it a lot more. Right.
Absolutely.
Southern Illinois, you always hear what happened to my electric bills. They're insane, right? Super high. They went from this to like 3, 4, 5 times the rate. But you know, we can still do things in our own homes and on our own to help reduce some of those costs. So as we head into the colder months, and it kind of feels like it's not going to happen, but I just jinxed us, and we're probably going to have a blizzard tomorrow. But you know, this has been like one of the best quasi going into falls ever. It still feels like summer. But if we do, and when we do go into these colder months, you know, what can people do to increase energy efficiency and save a little bit of money on their own bills?
So there's a few things that folks can do, some of which don't take any additional resources, and some things, if you really want to, can really help you reduce your energy use at home.
Sure.
Simple things that you know, our folks, my folks told me, your folks probably told you, turn the lights out when you leave a room. You know, now we deal a lot with computers, which take a tremendous amount of energy. Shut them down, unplug them if you're not going to be using them for a while.
And so it is important to unplug too, right?
It is.
Because people think just turning it off is enough, but it talk to us about how it does
Correct.
actually zap energy.
So there's something called vampire load, which doesn't have to do with the Twilight series or Dracula,
but it
which
sounds
is
cool.
it sounds cool,
Yeah,
which is the power being used when the machine looks like it's off. So
yes, listen,
computers,
it sounds cool, but it's not cool.
Cool.
It's a suck of your money.
That's right.
Yes.
Computers are a huge drain like that. So then there are always things like, you know, and again, if you have other resources that you can use, you can get a thermostat that you can reset at different times, or you can set it so that your house is cooling as you're gone. So when you come back, it's already
that's what we do in our
pre-cool
house.
it.
So there's these smart controls, right?
Smart thermostats that you can get.
Sometimes I walk in, I'm like, ooh, it's cold in here. My husband goes, honey, because we're not home, so we're saving money, and it makes me feel better.
There you go. And then there are things like, you know, energy efficient appliances that now are kind of the norm that people see.
Sure, like refrigerators and washing machines.
And there are actually programs through utilities to, if you want to get rid of the old, what we used to call the beer fridge out in the garage.
No one wants to get rid of their beer fridge.
I know that, but maybe get a more efficient one.
The inefficient one. You know why? So you can buy more beer.
That's right. You can afford more beer that way. So those are things that, you know, getting the energy efficient appliances when your water heater goes out, get the most efficient one you can. Heating water, for example, it takes a lot of energy to do that. And so those are the kinds of things that you can do. Also, you know, making sure your windows are caulked and sealed, making sure you're not letting, you know, the cool air out in the summer and the warm air out in the winter, so that your heater or your air conditioning has to work that much harder. Simple things like that. But then there are also other things that you can do, like adding more insulation, winterizing your home. There are some state grants that are available to help lower income folks.
That's really
do
cool.
that.
So how do people access that?
So through DCEO on the kind of the what we call the whole home enterprise.
Now, is that something that you guys promote on the website like throughout the year, or is it certain times of the year that those grants would be available?
Those kind of grants are available at all times, money permitting, you know, as long as there's budget for it. But then there are other programs that people can participate in. So for lower income folks in Illinois, there are programs like LIHEAP, the low income program. And those are, again, until the dollars run out, but those are things that will help low income folks be able to pay their utility bills.
Yeah.
And that's at, and you can, and you can do that through DCEO. There's a website there, the helpfamilies.com is the site for that, and they can talk to you about the programs that are available. They can also talk to you about LIHEAP. There's a different one called a percentage of income program, or PIP program, that would allow people to pay a percentage of their income, because a lot of times what we're worried about is that energy burden on folks, to make sure that such a high percentage of their income isn't being taken up by energy costs. And then we've also instituted some programs recently through rate cases that we've had with both the gas companies, and now it's starting to happen with the electric companies as well. And we did it with the private water companies that we regulate. We're low income discount rates. In the gas cases, there are 5 different income rates, so you would pay a different percentage of the bill depending on where your income fell.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if these things are means tested, or is it just based on like how big your bill goes?
They are, but if you sign up for LIHEAP, then you would be, that's one way to test to be able to participate in these programs, and it's all the way up to 300% of federal poverty level. So I mean, there's a pretty good income distribution there, and we're trying to get that in throughout the state, through all of the different
when you say
utilities.
like give us a number for people who don't, you know, they're not like numbers nerds like maybe we are. So 300% of poverty income, what's that?
That's a good question. I don't know that offhand.
Right.
You got me on that one. But whatever the federal policy, the federal
because I want
poverty
to say
rate
it's like
is.
20,000 or so.
It is.
Or
So
16
it would,
for like an individual, 20, 21,
for a
something like that
and
for
it
a family.
depends on your family size
and
as
then,
well.
you know, multiply that. So
yeah. So it's a
Could
you know,
be even 60 grand or so.
it is, and you know the issue there is that's a zero sum game for the utilities. They're going to get the money that they would have coming to them through the rate cases, and so if we're taking those dollars away from them, from the lower income customers, that's being paid for by the rest of the customers for that utility. But the benefit of that is then you don't have the shutoffs and you don't have the other costs that are associated with that. We're trying to keep people to be able to live in their homes.
In their homes, yeah, of course. Yeah. Now, there's a lot of talk this summer about rising energy costs. Yeah. Some people saw huge increases in their bills. We started off with me telling you when I go to Southern Illinois, I hear about this all the time. So what caused that, and what can the ICC do to help?
So real quickly, if I can, there are three parts to almost everybody's electric bill. One is the distribution costs, like we talked about with the wires that actually come into your home. One is the generation costs. Where are they buying the power from? Does it come from a nuclear plant? Does it come wherever that power comes from? That has a cost associated with it as well. And then there are transmission costs. So to get from the power plant to the distribution utility, there are all the big power lines that we see along the highways, and there's a cost for those as well. The power costs, the generation costs, are what went up so dramatically this summer. And we are what they call a deregulated state, so we don't regulate the generation of power anymore. We haven't since right before you got to the legislature, because we changed that in the late 90s.
Yeah, was that 98 or when was that? Something like that? Okay.
So we haven't regulated generation for 30 years. So the Illinois Power Agency is responsible for buying power for ComEd and Ameren, depending on what part of the state that you live in. Yep. And they both ComEd and Ameren and then the IPA, because we're a deregulated state, a lot of those decisions are made by what are called regional transmission organizations. They hold auctions for power. And when the supply and the demand start to get really tight, there's not that much supply out there like it would be with any other good or service, then the price goes up. Yeah. And that's what happened in both of the regions, the one that serves the ComEd area and the one that serves the Ameren area. They both went up dramatically this summer. Now, some of the things that you can do with that, obviously, there are other parts to the bill, so we're making sure from a commission standpoint that our charge is to, when one of the distribution utilities, ComEd or Ameren, comes to us with a rate case, that we're making sure we're looking at all of the expenses to make sure they're justified. We're also looking at what they call a return on equity, which is the percentage that they get as a profit over and above the costs that they have. And they get that because they're monopolies and they're regulated that way. And so we have to determine whether their expenses are reasonable and prudent. So that's one way that we can work with that. The other thing that we can do is work at the level of these regional transmission organizations to try to make sure that they're doing everything they can to bring as much power onto the grid. And one of the things that you've heard, and the governor said this, and we've said it, is that they're very slow in connecting, especially new utilities, new utility-based solar, utility-based wind, connecting that to the grid. And what ends up happening, if we had more of that power that came through the organizations,
we'd have a bigger supply,
and then the costs go down. So that's the main issue why costs went up dramatically. They went up differently in Ameren versus ComEd for two reasons. One is they're in different regional organizations that govern that. And Ameren's just went down, so if you're in central or southern Illinois, when we got into fall, those prices dropped.
Well, that's good.
The ComEd territory is constant.
I'm going back south this month, 2 weeks, so hopefully I might hear some relief.
It might be better than it was when you were there during July. So, so that's one reason. And then a second reason that they're different is back when CEJA passed in 21, there was a provision in there to the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which is kind of our roadmap for clean energy. We call it CEJA. But when CEJA passed, there was a provision to keep the nuclear plants open. It seems kind of quaint now to think about it, because now all we're talking about is, do we have enough resources, do we have enough power? But back then, if we remember, the nuclear plants, 2 of them were going to close.
Yeah, no, I'm so thankful that we didn't close them, and I am a huge proponent of nuclear. I think that Illinois has a massive competitive advantage to the rest of the country with how many nuclear sites we have and the capacity that we could build towards, not to mention jobs, but more importantly, the energy grid of the future, right? That could be us, much lower cost, much more supply, and certainly with all the data centers that are coming to Illinois or surrounding the Midwest area. So.
Yeah, and but when we negotiated CEJA, and I was working for the not-for-profit at the time, but the governor's office had hired us to help work on that legislation, so I got kind of a good inside look at that. When that provision was negotiated with Exelon, who owned the nuclear plants at the time, now they're owned by Constellation, but Exelon, the negotiation was that if there was a certain level of dollars that they needed to reach for each of the nuclear plants to keep them profitable and keep them in business, and if it fell below that, the state was going to subsidize it. If it rose above that, then they were going to rebate money back to ratepayers, and that's what's turned out to have happened for the most part, because the market prices were so high that they did better with their nuclear plants, and so a lot of that money got rebated back.
Yeah,
so
and
about
it's funny
half
because
the
when
increase,
it happened, though, we thought that we weren't getting a good deal, right? If I remember correctly, people thought, oh, they got us for more than we wanted to pay, but it actually ended up working better for taxpayers.
Yeah, and when we negotiated that, we put the piece in there that they would have to share if they did better, and that's turned out to be really good.
Job.
Oh, thank you. So there were others involved, but I was in those meetings.
But still, no, it's important to have those advocates in thinking, right? What's the best deal for taxpayers always?
Right, and so about in the ComEd area, about half of the increase, what would have been the increase, got mitigated because of the rebates that are coming from the nuclear plants. So there's a couple of differences if you're in northern Illinois.
So the nuclear has helped
versus,
us.
It has?
And I would say it's the cleanest energy and it's safe. So like, we grew up as little kids seeing these movies, horror movies about nuclear and thinking it's so bad. And, personally, I think it's a no-brainer.
We have
really
the largest nuclear fleet in the country,
safe,
and it's
clean,
worked out well
cheap.
for us. Yeah.
Win-win-win, triple win. So now let me ask you about the customers who have fallen behind on their utility bills, right? I mean, they're struggling to make ends meet. How do they move forward? What options might be available to help them through the ICC?
So there's a couple of things that they could do, and we have a customer services division, so we're happy to help customers or put them in touch with who they need to talk to. But there are a couple of other avenues for ratepayers who are falling behind. One is the utilities themselves. They each have payment plans that are set up that may be different, that to help get the customer out of the hole and get them back, and they need the customer to adhere to those payment plans, but that's a good avenue for a lot of folks. And then obviously the low income rates will help that we talked about earlier, and then also LIHEAP and PIP, the other programs, plus 2 of the utilities this summer, when the rates got so high, actually offered additional assistance, rebates, however you want to talk about that, so that the impacts weren't felt quite as much. But there are payment plans that are available through each utility. We can help through our customer services division.
To connect them.
The Citizens Utility Board is very good about helping customers understand their bills and about also helping point them out to the right programs. And then, as we mentioned before, DCEO operates a lot of the programs. And then there are community action agencies throughout the state, a lot of them here in the city, but throughout the state that are also set up to help sign up people for LIHEAP and also connect them with the other programs that are available.
Got it. And like on that note of the many different programs that are available, the ICC recently announced a partnership with the FCC for the Lifeline program.
Correct.
That's for people who are having trouble finding, affordable phone service and internet service. And we do hear about this. Like it seems so weird, but internet, phone service, it's like it's electricity. Like essentially, we can't imagine our lives without being able to walk into a room and turn on the light. Right? Electricity is it's a part of who we are, like in a civilized society. So I look at the internet and having access to the internet in the same way as like we take electricity for granted. In order to do anything successfully or to do anything period nowadays,
Right.
you can't just rely on electricity. You need internet service and you need phone service. So can you tell us a little bit about this Lifeline program?
So the Lifeline program is a federal program, and that allows a little bit over $9 a month assistance to help people be able to afford their phone bills, and that's something.
Do you have to apply for it?
You do,
or?
yeah. You do have to apply for that, and then the payments are to the carrier to help. As with the electric payments that we talked about through LIHEAP, they go to the carrier. So if you're, and they call it Lifeline for a good reason. If you don't have phone service, you don't have 911 service, and so things, in addition to
literally a lifeline.
Literally a lifeline, yeah. And so that's another program that I think can be really helpful to a lot of customers out there, and it's been around a long time, and it's something that that the state keeps reaffirming their interest in. The ICC used to do a tremendous amount of telecommunications work, regulating phone companies.
Yep.
And like when we were in the legislature, that
We
was
did that all the
probably,
time.
it was
Yeah,
probably
like-
70% of the work
Seriously,
the ICC
I remember
did.
that.
And now it's next to nothing because it's all deregulated and everybody's got their phones in their pockets.
Karen May back in the day, I think
Right.
used to like lead that committee, didn't she? Representative May. Yeah,
That's right.
so.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's obviously it's changed, and how people get their information and what phone services they use has changed tremendously
Sure.
over the
Plus,
years.
everybody has a cell phone nowadays too. But
Right.
you still, like, if you don't get service, or God forbid, there's a storm that knocks out the cell towers. I mean, having that landline could, in fact, be like a lifeline, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let me switch over to a different set of gears, perhaps. The ICC is one of the agencies that's tasked with making sure that Illinois meets its clean energy goals,
Correct.
right? It's
Yep.
part of the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act,
Correct.
otherwise known as
CEJA.
CEJA. That's right. See what I did there? Yeah. Okay. But anyway, the goal is for Illinois to have 100% clean energy by 2050.
Correct.
Now, it is 2025.
Yes.
That may seem like a long time from now,
It's
but
tomorrow.
it's not. It is tomorrow,
Yeah.
in fact. It's a
Yeah.
blink of an eye. So can you give us a feel for, how it's going and what progress has been made? Where are we at?
We've done extremely well in things like bringing on new renewables onto the grid. The IPA is principally, the Illinois Power Agency is principally responsible for the renewable energy credits that help bring wind and solar projects on.
Okay.
Some of them, the larger ones, run into problems with bringing the power onto the grid with the regional organizations that we talked about earlier. But for a whole lot of rooftop solar, a whole lot of community solar, which just works through Commonwealth Edison or through
you're
Ameren.
starting to see a lot more of that,
lot.
right? Like
Yeah.
you're driving even in here in Chicago through neighborhoods and people have solar on their roofs, something that, we never would have seen before.
No.
Actually, my son's best friend, his family, they just put solar on their roof.
okay.
An inner city bungalow in Chicago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So.
and so you're starting to see that a lot more, but you're also seeing what we call community solar programs, which are, it could be serve a whole neighborhood, and you can sign up to get the renewable energy from that project. I think people find that they save an awful lot of money. The payback on that is pretty good, in terms of timing for that. So we've done really well that way. There's more to do, always, but we've done well. Now, it's gotten more difficult in the last few months because of what's happening federally. So the federal tax credits for wind and solar are going to expire. And so there's
Someone doesn't like wind turbines.
someone does not like wind turbines, and we can all try to determine the reasons why, but
I just came back from Springfield and I saw, like it used to be you'd see the wind turbines, right?
Yeah.
Like going down to southern Illinois or whatever on your way to Springfield and then southern. Now you're starting to see farms like completely with solar.
solar, yeah.
Solar panels everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like no more corn, it's solar panels.
Yeah, and
I mean, we still obviously have a ton of corn and
yes,
soybean.
yes.
But I'm just saying you're starting to see the topography change a little bit.
I was at a location a few weeks ago where they own a gas peaker plant. So the peaker plant only runs at times where it's really hot or really cold and we really need all the energy to go on. but they are replacing. They're going to wind down the gas plant over time, and under the terms of CEJA, wind down the gas plant. But they've already replaced it with solar arrays that will make up the same amount of energy.
That's amazing.
And they're doing that at 5 other plants that they have in Illinois. So it's a really good project.
And you're really getting an even Stevens on that? They're replacing the full amount?
Well, if you replace it one for one, then no, because it's not always sunny out. Or, but then you also have the
It's not always sunny and it's not always windy.
Correct, and so, but they're also putting storage onto the site. So so when it's really sunny, the solar panels will take in the energy and store that, and then they can use that at times where it's not as sunny.
Where it's not sunny. Yeah. But I think that's why this whole conversation about energy is just important, that we have an honest one with the public, right?
Yes.
It's not this or that.
Correct.
It should be all of the above, right? When I talk about, I truly believe we should lean in heavy into nuclear, that doesn't mean we shouldn't have solar, or we shouldn't have wind turbines, or we shouldn't have, your traditional ways of powering energy grids. But we should have all of those things happening, and it's going to make us much more competitive as a state, and it's going to bring people's energy rates completely down, or at least as low as possible.
As low as possible.
And relative to other states, because we have access to 20% of the world's almost fresh water source here. Yeah. We've got nuclear, we have wind turbines, we have solar. We're really well set. But the reliability, for example, of nuclear could be every single day, every minute of the day. Yeah. Whereas you're not going to get that type of 100% reliability with solar or with turbines, right? And so, but they're still important in the scheme of adding additional power to the grid.
They are, and then other things like energy efficiency, like we talked about before. The cheapest megawatt is the one you don't use at all, right? So, exactly. Having more of that is important.
So do you think that we'll get to 100% clean energy by 2050?
I do. Yeah,
Still possible?
I do. We're looking right now at, we've been for the last several months doing resource adequacy hearings where we're bringing people in and talking about new technologies and new ways to try to get to the 100% clean, but also do that in a way so that we've got enough power as we go along between now and 2050 as well. Yeah. So, and part of that ends up being part of what is in the omnibus bill that's now in front of the General Assembly
during veto session.
During veto session.
That includes the nuclear component.
And so there's a whole resource adequacy piece there where ourselves, the Power Agency, and the Illinois EPA are all doing resource adequacy to determine if we've got enough power for all of the needs that we have, including the data centers, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so that's going to encompass a lot of different things. So, they always talk about, Wayne Gretzky always talked about, skate to where the puck is going to be. We're trying to go to where the energy grid is going to be in the future, and make sure that with the power needs of the future, there will be things that come in the 2030s and the 2040s that we don't know right now. There are going to be power sources, much like storage has become something, much like we were talking about. We couldn't have imagined back when we were in the General Assembly all of the solar arrays all over the state.
Look, we're talking quantum, and we want Illinois to be like the hub of it. When people think, tech, they think Silicon Valley. When people think quantum, they need to think Illinois. And Governor Pritzker has done a stellar job selling this, and really positioning Illinois to just be the rock star on all things quantum. Yeah. I truly believe he's passionate and in the coolest, nerdiest way, all in for quantum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that there's other sectors too that we can lean in heavy, like biotech, right?
Yeah.
Other types of emerging tech here in our state, in our city. But we're going to need the power to be able to power those dreams of the future, right?
Right, and he's also been really good at things like reshoring of manufacturing plants here, especially as they're making components for the clean energy industry.
100%. It's all vertically integrated, right? It's all about positioning Illinois in the middle of the country to be the economic powerhouse of the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? We should see ourselves as a mini country, essentially, and a world class one at that matter. But this should be the place that people don't look at as a flyover, but as the place to be.
And I think we've got that reputation now.
Yes, and we're definitely getting there, right? And so all of these things thinking of 2050 as 100% reliable energy, where it is reliable. It's not just reliable, but it's accessible. It's as cheap as possible.
And cheap as
and
possible.
as clean as
Right.
possible. All of those things are possible because of the natural resources that we have, and not to mention that we haven't even talked about a critical natural resource, which is our intellectual capital here, our universities, our research labs.
Yes. And
Like
our labor workforce
which
as well.
are pumping out those skilled employees. So we really do have it all, and I think we have good leadership too at the state level for sure. So, it's exciting. But I do want to talk before we close up about some ideas for like winterizing your home. I'll give you a perfect example. When we moved into our bungalow back in 2013, we just had a baby. So he was a year old, and you always want the baby's room to be perfect. And I was like, oh my gosh, why is the baby's room so cold? Like we moved in December, so like it was like the coldest time, and we just couldn't get that room warm. It was it was not a new home. So the home was 100 years old, but it had been completely gut rehabbed, and so it looks new, right? But that room was always cold, no matter what we did. And so I was not happy as the mother of a baby, and we decided to have an energy audit done of our home.
Yes.
So talk about that a little bit, and I'll give you my own personal experience, because I thought it was a game changer.
So energy audits have been around for a long time, and what that is somebody will come into your home, your business, or we used to see it a lot with churches that would do energy audits because for them, energy costs were like the biggest expense that the church had.
Because they're so big and open, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So somebody will come in and tell you, you need to caulk this window. Your furnace is not very efficient. Maybe the furnace is okay, but the distribution system within your house isn't. So it's not getting up to your baby's room. You need more insulation in the attic. All of the different things. Your appliances could be better. And both our utilities, both the major electric utilities in the state, will do those for free. Really? So they will come out and do that because that's something that we work with them on. And so
I didn't know that, because we paid somebody to come in and do an energy
well, you
audit.
can do that
Darn
too.
it.
You can do that too.
I didn't know I could get it for free.
I can't speak of how quickly you can
That's
get on
true.
the list and all of that.
I might still be waiting. Hopefully not.
You might have chosen to pay anyway, but at least to know that the service is out there for free. And what that does then is that tells you all those things that we talked about earlier, like a programmable thermostat, or what can we do with our appliances, or hey, we're the utility, we're doing the energy audit for you. We have a program to take your beer fridge out of the out of the garage. So those are the kinds of things that they can do, and really point out the different ways that you can help to. It's not just winterize, better seal of your house.
Make your home energy efficient.
Exactly. Yeah, and for low-income residents here too, we also have programs that are kind of the whole home, because what you'll see a lot of times is weatherization will come in, and weatherization will do all those things that we just talked about. Look at the windows, look at the insulation, and they'll want to work on your house, but your roof's bad.
Sure.
So they're going to say, no, we're not going to put money into your house because your roof is bad. It won't do us any good.
Sure.
So there are other funds that are available. And again, this is through DCEO to work through this. Again, Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity.
DCEO.
Sorry about that. But to things like fixing some of the things that need to be fixed before weatherization can come in and take care of those things. So
sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we did a few things on our home. We realized that our bill was high relative to what we thought it should be, our electric bill and heating bill and all that. And so we also saw that on the exterior of the house, which is all brick, I could put my finger through some of those holes. And even though the house was like really pretty and they did a really nice job, they didn't like tuck point the whole outside of the building. So we did have to spend, and it was more than I would like to, but we did have to get the whole exterior of the home tuck pointing. So we did a full grind out and tuck pointing. That right off the bat cut like 20% of our energy.
That would be a huge savings. Yeah.
It was a huge savings over time. So a great investment. I would tell people that if you can afford or if you can't just save for something like that, because it will save you a ton of money over the life of your home if you plan on staying in that home, which we do.
Yeah, exactly.
The energy audit was not very expensive, but the guy came in and he used like professional equipment, and they basically do like infrared scans of your home for people who've never had this. It's not just some guy like eyeballing and saying you should caulk your window, but they're actually taking like heat scans, and they can see like if you got an ultrasound, kind of like what's behind the walls.
Yeah.
There might be nothing behind the walls where there should be insulation.
Right.
What we
or
realized,
holes in the attic or other things where lots of heat will escape through.
Yeah,
them.
so we realized that when they put the soffit, is that what you call, you know, like the part that hangs over your house for like home do-it-yourself people like me. But when they set the soffit, they actually didn't seal it correctly, and so there was all this cold air coming in, which was not visible to us unless if somebody went and did it.
Right.
And saw that we were just losing a ton of heat to something that was invisible to me, right? It was on the other side of a wall. And so we did have to have the soffit removed, and then because we had just bought the house, the person who did it took responsibility for that because it was something they should have done. And they came in and they took the soffit off, they properly insulated it, put the correct boards on, did what they were supposed to do to seal it, and ta-da! The baby's room is now warm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and your bills are lower.
Huge difference. And our bills are significantly lower. So there were other spots in the house where they weren't properly insulated. All things that happen with rehabs or new homes, even brand new construction. It happens all the time. So I do think like the best money we might have spent was in getting that energy audit done. It was not a lot of money, and it ended up saving us a ton of money over the life of our time in that home.
Yeah.
And you see an actual impact on your bill literally in the next month's bill.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
don't delay on
absolutely.
that if you can afford to do it. Energy audit, pretty much most people will be able to afford to do that. And now we know everybody can, because
Everybody
if you
can
don't want to
through the
pay it
utilities.
yourself, just contact the ICC or the utilities.
The utilities,
Yeah, and then have them do it for you. So as we wrap up, let me just ask you anything else that we haven't touched base about, and specifically if people do want to apply for any of these types of programs, do they go to the DCEO website or do they go to the ICC and then you refer them there?
They can come to either our website or through what we have, our consumer services division. They can call them and they can direct them to the right places.
And so what's your
to go.
website? ICC.com.
So
ICC.
or gov.
ICC.gov, right?
Sorry. Yeah,
it's super
gov.
easy though. Like unlike the controller website, which is Illinois Comptroller, that's how it's spelled, .org.
Yeah, we're icc.illinois.gov.
Yeah, okay.
So
Well, that's still easy.
Yeah.
You can do it. ICC.illinois.gov. Okay, good. Anything else we haven't covered here?
I don't think so.
All right, so make sure you get your home winterized if you haven't yet, or at the very least, make a plan for getting it winterized as soon as you can afford to do so. But
turn
also,
off what you can turn off.
Yeah, turn off lights.
Right.
Don't be victim to the vampire suck, right?
Correct.
Of your money. Disconnect appliances when not in use. One thing that I did, because ComEd actually sent me, and they sent I'm assuming everyone in their energy network, a box. Did you get one?
No.
Are you a ComEd guy?
I'm not a ComEd customer.
Okay,
no,
so we're a ComEd customer, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, if not maybe a year ago. We got a package delivered to our home. All our neighbors did, so I'm assuming the whole city did. No special clout here. And it was like an energy box, and it had all these tips for how to save energy costs in your home, including all the things we talked about, disconnecting appliances. And they also gave us fun little knickknacks, including a little hourglass, sandglass thingy, that you put, it has a suction cup, and you put it in your shower. And you flip it, and it's like 5 minutes essentially. So you should be able to get in and out of your shower, do what you need to do in the shower before the hourglass runs out. And I love it. I actually started using that.
And it doesn't just save water; it saves energy.
Energy as well.
Your
so obviously
heating the
from
water
ComEd, that's what they're explaining.
Yeah.
You're heating up the water, and it's wasteful to water to spend more time than you need to in the shower, and obviously you're saving money by spending less time in the shower as well from an energy perspective.
And I know this will sound like torture to most people, but lots of times in your bill, if you still get a paper bill from the utilities, or if you're on their website when you're doing bill payment, there's a lot of times they will supply interesting tips of things that you can do. I know nobody really goes out in their day to read the utility bill,
Yeah.
but it's probably a good idea to at least check it out, because they will have different tips on there at different times about some of the things
it's
that
good
we've
advice,
talked
you know?
about.
Yeah, none of us it's not one of those things that you're looking forward to reading. You know, you
Right.
almost want to avoid it. But to your point, there might be some great tips there. So, you know, at least once a year, take a look at it and try not to like go, but actually maybe look to see if they might have a helpful tip that you can learn something and ultimately save some dough,
The
right?
one thing that people are doing now that they didn't do before is more and more people are trying to take charge of their energy costs. You know, it used to be that there was a factoid that the average person, other than when they were actually looking at their bill or writing the check to pay their bill, spent 6 minutes a year on energy issues. That's changing because people are used to buying things at different times. They're used to different pricing schedules. They're used to comparing things. And so looking at things like a programmable thermostat, if you can do that, or looking at what the energy savings might be from a different appliance.
Or your lights, the type
Or
of lights that
the
you
type
use,
of lights
right?
that you use, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are things that I think more and more people are taking charge of now.
Sure.
And it's not only good for all of us because it helps save, for all of the reasons that we've talked about, it helps save energy.
It's good for the environment.
It's good for the environment. It's good for the individual. It's good for their
Sure.
bills.
Yeah, for sure. I also think, though, too, that, you know, maybe years ago, and I don't know because I'm thinking of back when I was a kid, I wasn't paying the bills. My parents were, right? But so many things have just risen dramatically in price, right?
Yeah.
So like in the past where maybe like a family could own a home with one income and could afford to pay the bills with one income. Those days are long gone. And as we have so many more things that are powered by electricity, clearly our electrical bills are going to be higher.
Right.
Even if you could find efficiencies in scale and you can find ways to deliver services cheaper, we're consuming so much more energy
Exactly,
that
yeah.
it's like no wonder why we're paying so much more.
We're consuming it more, and we have much higher expectations about the reliability of the energy too.
Sure.
Now, you're much
God
younger.
forbid it go down for 3
You're
minutes.
much
Everybody
younger than
freaks
I am.
out,
But
right?
when I was a kid, and I grew up in Rockford, outages happened frequently, and maybe not for very long. It's sometimes longer, but it happened all the time. It doesn't so much anymore because so much, to your point, so much of what we do is based on having electric power available. It's computers, it's cell phones, it's everything
Sure.
that we're doing. Businesses rely on it to the
Yeah.
point where they can't stand to be down. So we've spent a lot of money. All of us have spent a lot of
Sure.
money hardening that distribution grid to make sure that it can withstand storms and it doesn't go
Yeah.
down as much as it did, or if it does go down, it comes back much more quickly than it did.
That's
All
awesome.
that's expensive as well.
Yeah, it's expensive, but at the end of the day, it's a long-term investment,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
In like the future viability of our state and our economic growth potential, which is really limitless as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, me too.
And so if you're watching this, highly unlikely that you're watching us from Texas because you might actually be in the middle of a rolling blackout. But when you come back, if you're upset about that blackout, look at Illinois as the place for you to move to, raise your family, or start your business and grow your wealth because we don't have rolling blackouts in this state. And for good reason. You know, we're working hard to make sure that we have the strongest energy grid, and hopefully we'll be able to leverage all of our natural resources, like we said, including solar, wind, and nuclear, along with our normal ways of generating electricity here in our great state. But I just want to thank you again, Chairman,
you.
for
This
joining
was
us.
fun.
You know, it's hard to talk about like energy stuff and try to make it fun, but I think you rocked it. So
Thank you. We don't
All
get
right.
invited to a lot of, parties for discussion, so, so I appreciate the invitation.
But you
so.
should, I think power is cool, especially
too.
electric power.
Me
So it's
too.
all good. All right,
Thanks.
thanks for having us, and we'll see you at the next week of Mendoza Podcast.